I am the history kid. I don't have a degree in history, but I love history. And if you love history too, this could be the channel for you.
Our version of the American West is largely created by movies and TV shows full of gunslingers and bandits. You'd think that the Wild West was wild and lawless. In reality, the West was difficult and wild largely because it was the frontier, and people were trying to carve a life out of nothing. It was largely a law-abiding, yet hard-scrabble existence. But there were real outlaws in the Wild West, and there were real people with real stories. And perhaps no story is better than the extraordinary tale of the bandit, Dick Fellows. Dick Fellows' story does not start like you'd think for an outlaw bandit. He was born George Little, the son of a successful and wealthy attorney and court judge in Kentucky. He had a good education for a successful career as a lawyer. His legal studies were interrupted by the Civil War. He enlisted in the Confederate Army and was captured by the Union, and then paroled on the promise that he never again fight against the United States. He continued his legal education and then was admitted to the bar. But George Little was an alcoholic who drank away his career, and his law practice ruined his reputation and embarrassed his family. So, in 1867, he quietly left Kentucky. Like many Americans of his time, he went west to California. He reinvented himself and changed his name to Dick Fellows. But he was still an alcoholic. He was unable to successfully practice law, failed at several legitimate businesses, and turned to stagecoach robbery for income. His tactic was surprisingly simple. He would lay in wait on a stagecoach route, and then when one approached, he would step out with a bandana over his face, brandish a pistol, and order the driver to throw down the express box, which usually included a few $100s. It was a surprisingly effective tactic, but required some luck not to get caught. After several successful robberies, he was recognized based on a wanted poster, arrested, and sent to San Quentin prison in 1870. And then, Dick Fellows started what would become a pattern in his life. In prison, without alcohol. He was a charming and well-educated fellow. He was a model prisoner and taught other prisoners remedial education. He was such a good prisoner that he only served 4 years out of an 8-year sentence. Upon his release, he again tried to succeed in business. Again, he returned to alcoholism, and his business failed. So he again resorted to stagecoach robbery. And this is where he built his most famous legend. In 1875, he learned of a Wells Fargo stage carrying $240,000, an enormous amount of money, especially for that time. So he rented a horse and raced to the location where he planned to rob the stage. But the horse threw him, and he was knocked unconscious for several hours. He was so smart and so clever, but he missed his chance, because he fell off his horse. Thus began the legend of Dick Fellows, the outlaw who couldn't ride a horse. Fellows knew the same stage would be returning in about a week, and while it wouldn't have nearly as much money, it wouldn't have armed guards. So he stole a horse, and on the second try he successfully robbed the stagecoach. But when the driver threw the heavy strongbox and rode away, Fellows realized he didn't have any tools to open it. So he tried to put the heavy box on the horse, but the horse bolted away. So here was Dick Fellows in the pitch black of night, with a heavy strongbox, knowing that a posse would soon be chasing him. As he tried to get away, he fell into a hole, dropped the strongbox on his leg, and broke his leg. Eventually, he did manage to steal some tools to open the box and splint his leg. He stole another horse to make his getaway with $1,800, but the horse that he stole had a mule shoe on one of its feet, which left very unique and identifiable tracks that the posse could follow. So once again, Dick Fellows was caught and sent to prison. He actually managed a brief escape while he was being transported, but again, he was identified because of a wanted poster, and he was sent to San Quentin prison with a sentence of 8 years. Back in San Quentin, once again sober, Dick Fellows again became a model prisoner who was a contrite and remorseful, and taught other prisoners remedial education, and in this case studied and became proficient in Spanish. And again, he was such a model prisoner that the new California governor pardoned him, having served just 5 years out of his 8-year sentence. Again, Dick Fellows tried to make a legitimate living, this time as a teacher of the Spanish language, but again, he turned to alcoholism and lost his business. Once more, he turned to stagecoach robbery to pay his bills. He successfully robbed a number of stagecoaches in California, but one more time, he was identified from a wanted poster and sent back to prison. While being transported to prison, he managed to escape, not once, but twice, both times by simply being so charming that he lulled the guards into a false sense of complacency and then ran away. The second time, he tried to steal a horse to escape, but the horse threw him on the ground, knocking him senseless, and he was captured. A fitting end for the outlaw who couldn't ride a horse. He was sent to California's Folsom Prison, this time as a repeat offender with a life sentence. Today, Dick Fellow's name is almost forgotten outside of a few small-town California historical societies. And if he is known, it's for his incompetence, which is kinda unfair. He did successfully rob more than a dozen stagecoaches, and is suspected in many more. He managed some amazing and brazen escapes in law enforcement. In many ways, he was one of the most successful outlaws in the Wild West. But he was also very human. He was intelligent, well-educated, and probably wanted to live a law-abiding life, but his addiction to alcohol led him astray. Despite his life sentence, Dick Fellows got one more pardon in 1908. It seems that his family rediscovered and reconciled with him, and successfully asked the governor to pardon him on the promise that he would return to Kentucky, where the family would guarantee his good behavior. And it's there where the wily villain made maybe his last escape, because there is no record that he ever returned to Kentucky. No proof that he ever lived there, and no evidence that he died there. His ultimate fate is unknown, just another legend of the Wild West.
Hi, I'm the History Guy, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of The History Kids, which is inspired by my channel, The History Guy. History deserves to be remembered. Be sure to subscribe for more episodes.